It was a cold morning on set. The kind of cold that didn't just touch your skin, it went deeper. It made your bones feel tired, even if you weren't. The kind of morning when coffee isn't enough and your smile feels forced. Ana de Armas sat on the edge of her trailer steps. She wore a warm jacket, but her shoulders still trembled, not because of the cold outside, but the storm building quietly inside her. She stared at the gravel beneath her shoes, eyes empty, lips pressed tightly together. Behind her, cameras were getting ready. Assistants rushed around. But Ana was frozen. She had cried the night before. Again, she hadn't told anyone, not even her closest friend on set. Not even the makeup artist who always asked, "Are you really okay?" in that soft, knowing voice. Ana had smiled, lied, said she was fine, but she wasn't. She was tired. Not just from the long days or the heavy scripts. This was deeper, heavier. It was the weight of not feeling enough, of waking up every morning wondering if people really saw her or just the character she played. She had read the reviews. Some praised her, but others tore her apart. Some said she was just a pretty face. Others questioned her ability. One headline still echoed in her mind. "She's trying too hard, but she's not there yet." Those words burned. Because they were cruel, but because some part of her believed them. And today, the first time in a long time, Ana didn't want to act. She didn't want to step onto that set, wear a smile, and pretend. She wanted to hide. Maybe go back. To Cuba? Maybe disappear for a while. Maybe forever. She didn't hear the footsteps behind her, not until a quiet voice broke the silence. "Hey," Keanu Reeves said gently, standing a few steps away, holding 2 mugs of coffee. One for him, one for her. Ana didn't look up. Was afraid that if she did, he'd see her tears. But Keanu didn't push. He simply sat down beside her. Not close, not far. Just there. They sat in silence for a minute. Then 2, then 5. Ana didn't say a word. Keanu didn't either. But there was something about his presence. Something that didn't ask for anything. Something calm, steady, kind. Finally, he spoke. "Had days like this," he said softly, staring ahead. "Days where I felt like I was fooling everyone, like I didn't belong." Ana's lips parted slightly, surprised. Keanu Reeves? Feeling that way? "But someone once told me something." He continued, his voice even. "They said, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to keep showing up." Ana looked at him then, really looked. His eyes weren't filled with pity. They were filled with understanding. "You're already enough, Ana," he whispered. "Don't let them tell you otherwise." Just like that, her chest tightened. Those 4 words, "you're already enough," Ana sliced through her fog. No one had said that to her in months, maybe years. For a moment, she wanted to cry. Not from pain, but from release. From hearing something she didn't know she'd needed so badly. Keanu stood up slowly, handed her the second mug, and gave her a quiet smile. "I'll be on set when you're ready," he said, then walked away. Ana held the warm mug in her hands. She stared at it, and for the first time in a long time she felt held. Not by the mug, not even by the coffee, but by someone's kindness, someone's belief. She breathed in, and she didn't feel so cold anymore. The sun had climbed a little higher when Ana finally stood up from the trailer steps, her fingers still wrapped around the coffee mug. The warmth of it lingered, but it was the warmth of Keanu's words that truly stayed with her. Those words weren't just kind, they were real, honest, and somehow they didn't make her feel small. They made her feel seen. When she walked back toward the set, she walked slowly, not because she was afraid, but because everything felt just a little bit unfamiliar now, like the world had shifted slightly, like something inside her had cracked open, and the light was finally starting to come through. The crew was already setting up for the next scene. Someone shouted directions. The makeup artist waved her over. Background actors chatted while holding their props. Ana stepped into the bustle with quiet steps. "There you are, Marie," her makeup artist said with a relieved smile. "You okay?" Ana paused. She had always said, "I'm fine," before, but this time she smiled gently and replied, "Getting there." Marie's eyes softened. She didn't push. She just touched Anna's shoulder and led her into the trailer, as Anna sat in the chair, letting Marie fix the smudge of mascara she hadn't realized had fallen. She looked at her own reflection. Her face looked the same. The world outside hadn't changed. But she had. And it wasn't just Keanu's words that had shifted her. It was the way he sat beside her in silence. The way he didn't try to fix her or cheer her up. The way he just let her be. When she walked onto set moments later, lights in her eyes and cameras in position, something strange happened. She didn't feel like she had to act. Not in the fake way. Not in the pretend way. She felt like she could just exist. The director called action. Anna stepped into the scene. It was a heavy one. Her character was supposed to be crying. Supposed to be breaking, but today she didn't have to force it. The emotions were already there. Not from weakness, but from truth. Her voice shook in the scene. Her hands trembled. A single tear slipped down her cheek when the scene ended. Quiet then. Someone whispered, "Wow." Anna blinked. She wasn't sure what she had just done. Hadn't felt like acting. It felt like telling the truth through someone else's words. "Cut," the director finally said. That was real. That was beautiful. Anna stepped back, her heart pounding. From the corner of the set, Keanu watched. He didn't say anything, just gave her a soft nod. A silent "I saw you." And Anna felt it deep in her chest. Later that evening, the cast gathered for dinner in the production tent. Laughter echoed. Stories were shared. But Anna stayed quiet, watching the people around her. She noticed things she hadn't before. How tired the costume lady looked. How the assistant director rubbed his temples every few minutes. How the young intern smiled every time someone talked to her. Everyone here was carrying something. She wasn't alone. Keanu eventually sat beside her, balancing a plate of rice and grilled vegetables. "You did good today," he said without looking up. Anna smiled. "I felt honest." "Honesty is the best kind of acting," Keanu said simply. She looked at him. "Do you ever get scared?" He nodded. "All the time." "But fear doesn't mean we're not strong. It means we care." Anna looked down at her plate. "Sometimes I think people expect too much of me." "Maybe," he said. "But what matters more is what you expect of yourself." She thought about that. Then she asked quietly, "What do you expect of yourself?" Keanu chewed slowly, then answered, "To stay kind, even when it's hard." His words settled into her like a quiet truth. Outside, the night was growing darker. But inside Anna, something was just beginning to light up. Not because everything was suddenly perfect, but because someone had reminded her that she didn't need to be. The third week of filming began with gray skies and heavy air. The kind of air that made everything feel slower, heavier. Like the world itself was holding its breath. Anna stood in costume, holding the script in her hands. The scene for today was emotionally intense. Her character was supposed to confront a painful memory. The director had warned her, "This one's going to take everything out of you." Anna wasn't afraid of the scene. She was afraid of something else. Last night, she had received another message on her phone. A cruel one. Anonymous. Of course, someone had sent her a screenshot of an article. The headline read, "Ana de Armas is falling apart under pressure." Beneath it, there were comments. Cold words, assumptions, accusations. One said, "She should just quit. She's not strong enough." Those words were poison. They didn't just hurt, they echoed. They became the voice inside her head, louder than her own, as the cameras rolled. Ana stepped into the scene. She spoke the lines. She hit her marks. She cried when she was supposed to cry, but something was off. She knew it. The director called cut too early. He didn't say anything at first. Then, after a pause, he gently said, "Let's try that again, Ana." She nodded, but inside, her heart sank. They did the scene again. Then again, on the fourth take. Her voice cracked, not from the script, but from something real. She barely made it to the end of the scene before whispering, "I need a moment." Then she walked off set quickly, hiding her face. She made it to the back corridor of the studio. where the light was low and the walls were quiet. They're finally alone. Anna leaned against the wall and let it all go. Tears poured down her cheeks. Her chest ached. Her hands shook. She tried to breathe, but every breath felt broken. For a moment, she hated herself for crying, for feeling weak, for letting strangers' words control her heart. "I'm not enough," she whispered. "I'll never be enough." She didn't hear the soft footsteps. Not until a familiar voice said, "You don't have to hide." Anna turned quickly, wiping her face. Ashamed, but Keanu was already there. He wasn't surprised to see her crying. He didn't ask what happened. He just stepped closer and said, "You're not the only one who's ever felt this way." Anna looked down. "I thought I was stronger." "You are strong," he replied. "You're still here, aren't you?" She nodded slowly, not trusting her voice. Keanu took a slow breath and then sat down on the nearby bench. Patting the space beside him, Anna hesitated, then sat. "People think strength means never breaking," he said softly. Not true. Strength is about choosing to get up again. It's about showing up with your heart open, even after it's been hurt. Anna sniffled. "But it feels like the world is watching, waiting for me to fail." "Then give them something else to see," he said. "Let them see how someone keeps going, even when it hurts." Anna looked at him, eyes wide. "You don't have to be fearless, Anna. You just have to be brave." Those words reached deep into her. They didn't erase the pain, but they gave it meaning. It made her feel not alone. She sat with Keanu for a while, not speaking, but just breathing, just being, and in that silence, she began to feel steady again. Not perfect, not unshakable, but steady enough to try. When she returned to set, the crew stayed quiet. Anna walked to her mark. The camera rolled. This time she didn't force anything. She let the truth flow. Every word was raw. Every look was honest. The director didn't stop her once. And when the scene ended, it was silence. Then applause. Not the loud kind. Not the kind for show, but the soft, real kind. The kind that means someone just witnessed something human and true. Anna stood there, breathing hard, eyes wet, heart wide open. She had given everything, and this time it wasn't for approval. It was for herself. The next morning, Anna walked on a set earlier than usual. She had barely slept. Not because of worry, but because something inside her had changed. Something quiet, something small, but something strong. Like a candle refusing to go out, no matter how much wind tried to blow it away, the lights were still being set up. The crew moved slowly, yawning and sipping coffee. Anna headed toward her chair, the one with her name printed in white letters, but something stopped her on her chair. There was an envelope, simple, white. Her name written in small handwriting across the front. No logo, no signature, just her name, Anna. She looked around, but no one seemed to be watching her, curious. She sat down and opened the envelope. Inside was a short letter. It was typed, and as she read the words, her fingers tightened around the page. "Dear Anna, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I needed to write it anyway. I was going through a hard time this month. I was feeling invisible, like nothing I did mattered. I've been dealing with anxiety, and most days I can barely get out of bed, but the other day I saw a video clip of you from set. You were talking with a young fan, kneeling to her level, listening like she was the only person in the world. That moment reminded me that kindness is still alive, that maybe I can still get up and keep going too. You didn't know anyone was watching, but I was. And I'm grateful you were there. Thank you. From someone who's still trying." Anna's breath caught, her hands trembled slightly as she folded the letter back up. She didn't know who had left it. She didn't know when. But suddenly she realized something important. She wasn't just acting. She wasn't just surviving. She was impacting someone. Even when she felt broken, Evan, when she didn't feel enough, she had been enough for someone else. A tear rolled down her cheek. Not from sadness, but from something softer, something healing. Keanu walked by a moment later, carrying a bag of snacks. He noticed the look on her face and tilted his head. Anna held up the letter and smiled. "Someone left this," she said. He sat beside her, reading it silently. When he finished, he nodded. "Double quotes C," he said gently. "You're already making a difference," Anna whispered. "But I didn't even try." Keanu looked her in the eyes. "That's when it's real," he said. "When it comes from who you are, not what you do." That day, Anna filmed another hard scene she had to play. A moment of loss, a moment of being left behind. The kind of emotion that pulls every piece of you out into the open. But she didn't act from pain alone, she acted from truth, from knowing that her story mattered not just on screen. But off, the director watched her closely. When the scene ended, he walked up and said something he hadn't said before. "Anna, that was art." Her castmates clapped softly, but Anna wasn't looking for praise anymore. That letter had already given her something better. It reminded her that kindness travels. It reminded her that small moments like sitting with a child or staying present with someone struggling can change the course of someone's life. Donna folded the letter carefully and placed it in her bag. She would keep it not as a trophy, but as a reminder that she didn't have to be perfect. She just had to be kind, and that was enough. The trailer door closed behind Anna with a soft thud. She leaned back against it, holding her phone in both hands. A new review had just dropped. The article was trending. People were talking again. Some praised her, others didn't. And one line one had stuck to her like a thorn in the skin. Ana de Armas shows potential, but still lacks the emotional depth to carry a scene. Anna stared at the sentence. It wasn't even the harshest thing ever said about her, but it still hurt. Maybe because she had given her soul to those scenes. Maybe because after all the tears and effort, some people still didn't see her. A knock on the trailer door broke. Her thoughts? "It's me," Keanu's voice said quietly from the other side. She opened it slowly. He stood there, holding 2 bottles of water. No coffee today, just something simpler. He handed her one, then stepped inside and closed the door gently behind him. Anna didn't speak. She didn't need to. Keanu looked at her face and understood. He always did. She showed him the article on her screen. He read it, slowly, then handed the phone back without a word. Anna waited, expecting advice or comfort, or maybe a gentle story about how he'd faced something similar. But he didn't offer any of that. He just looked at her and said nothing. And somehow, that silence said more than anything else ever could. He was telling her, "You don't have to explain yourself. I see you." "Do you ever get tired of proving yourself?" Anna asked quietly. Keanu nodded all the time. "How do you deal with it?" He took a breath, eyes focused on the floor. "By remembering that critics write from the outside," he said softly. "But we live this from the inside. They see the final scene. They don't see the tears, the late nights, the shaking hands before take one. They don't see the doubt we carry or the courage it takes to keep going anyway." Tightened, she looked down at her hands. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to do this forever." Keanu placed his bottle down and said, "Then don't do it for forever. Do it for today. Just get through today. Then tomorrow, decide again." That small shift changed everything. She didn't have to carry the weight of a lifetime, just this moment, just this breath, just this scene. Later that day, they had to film together. A long dialogue between their characters, a scene about trust, about falling and hoping someone will catch you. Anna walked to her mark. The cameras rolled, and as she delivered her lines, something new emerged in her voice. Something raw, something real. She looked at Keanu across from her, and for a moment, it wasn't acting. It was truth. It was 2 people who had seen each other through quiet moments of pain, who had held space for each other when the world shouted too loudly, when the director called cut. The set stayed quiet for a long second, then applauded again. Not loud, but real, afterwards. One of the producers approached Anna and said, "You're changing people with this performance." Anna blinked, not knowing what to say. Later that night, she sat alone under the stars, behind the set. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. The world felt slow and peaceful for once. Keanu joined her, sitting cross-legged in the grass. "Thank you," she said softly. He smiled without looking at her. "You don't have to thank me," Anna turned to him, voice steady. "No, I do. Not just for the coffee or the quiet, but for reminding me that I'm allowed to feel everything." Keanu finally looked at her, his eyes full of something soft and steady. "You're already enough, Anna," he whispered again. This time, she believed it, not just with her head, but with her heart. The final scene was set. The lights were arranged. The sound crew stood ready. The script supervisor flipped through the pages with calm hands. Everyone knew today was important. It was the last day of filming, the end of a journey that had been more than just acting. It had been healing, painful, beautiful, and for Anna, it had been transformation. She stood in her trailer in front of the mirror, looking at her reflection. She barely recognized the woman staring back, not because her face had changed, but because something inside had grown. She wasn't pretending to be strong. Anymore, she was strong, not because the world said so, but because she had walked through the fire of doubt, fear, and judgment, and kept walking. There were still voices, still whispers from the outside world, but they no longer owned her heart. She had reclaimed it. When Anna walked onto set, the crew turned. There was a stillness. The director approached her gently. "Whenever you're ready," she took her place beside Keanu, who stood already in character. His calm presence, as always, was like a steady breath in a noisy room. Today's scene was the final goodbye between their characters. A quiet moment, no shouting, no dramatic speeches, just two souls saying goodbye with the weight of all they'd shared. The camera rolled. Anna looked at Keanu, but for a split second. It wasn't the character she saw, it was the man who had handed her coffee when her hands were shaking. It was the man who had said nothing when silence was the kindest thing. It was the friend who had reminded her again and again that she was enough. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held steady. "I'm scared." Her character whispered. Keanu's single quotes, his voice steady and sure, replied, "That's how you know it matters." A single tear fell down Anna's cheek. "Real. UNFORCED. Honest." The scene ended. The director whispered, "Cut." But no one moved. A few crew members wiped their eyes. The stillness held for just a moment longer. Then the applause came. This time it wasn't soft. It was full, honest, thunderous. Anna stood there, not hiding anymore. Someone placed flowers in her hands. The cast hugged her. The crew clapped again, and when the crowd started to thin, Keanu walked up to her quietly. She looked at him and whispered, "I'm going to miss this." He nodded. "Me too." Then, before turning to leave, he said one last thing. "Just promise me something." "What?" "Promise you'll keep showing up," he said. "Not for them, for you." Anna felt her throat tighten. "I will." He smiled, placed a hand gently over his heart, then walked away. Weeks passed. The film wrapped. Trailers were packed. Everyone went back to their lives. Anna returned home. Not to escape, but to breathe. Interviews came. Magazines asked questions. The same voices that once doubted her now praised her. A career-defining performance. Raw, brave, unforgettable. But that wasn't what stayed with Anna. What stayed was that morning on the trailer. Steps. That whisper of kindness. That silence that held her. That letter from a stranger. Those words you're already enough repeating. Softly in her heart, whenever doubt tried to sneak in. One morning, while walking past her bookshelf, she noticed the letter again. She read it slowly, then smiled, and for the first time, she sat down and wrote something back. "Dear someone who's still trying, I read your letter on the hardest week of my life. You reminded me that even when I feel lost, someone might be looking at me and seeing something good. Something kind. Thank you for giving me hope when I thought I had none left. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. Keep breathing and know you are already enough." From someone who almost gave up, Anna. sealed the letter, and placed it in her journal. She didn't need to. Send it. The message was already moving, just like kindness always does. And somewhere out there, someone else would read it, hear it, feel it, just like she had. And maybe, just maybe, they'd whisper something powerful to someone else too.